Hello students, I Dr. Shilpa Shrotriya from Sinhagad College of Pharmacy, Pune, welcome you all in the session of Sunscreen and Suntan Preparation Part 1. So before we begin with this particular session, I must say thank you to the inventors who invented such a wonderful concept and for the product which will protect us from harmful UV radiation and gives us feeling of happiness in sunny days. So let's begin with the session. At the end of session, the student can learn the concept of sun radiation, their benefits and harms, the concept of electromagnetic spectrum, the role of UV radiation, the different signs and the indication of the skin damage due to UV radiation, the concept and role of sunscreen, ideal properties of sunscreens, classification of sunscreens into two ways. One is the physical classification and the second is the chemical classification, and physical versus chemical sunscreen agent. So let's begin with the session. Our relationship with the sun is a kind of strange, don't you think? On the one hand, we rely on the sun rays to keep us alive, but on the other hand, it is very dangerous to stay out in the sunshine for a long time. There is a massive range of consequences on good and bad of the sun exposure. So here are some pros and cons of the sun exposure. These are the benefits. The sun rays provide us heat, light. It helps the plants for the photosynthesis. It triggers the vitamin D synthesis, and finally it will provide us happy and positive feelings. While on the other side, there are certain harms due to the sun rays. The sun rays may be responsible for suntan, sunburn, premature aging. Freckles can be seen on the surface of the skin, which will be convert them into the liver spots. Maybe the wrinkles. It loses the elasticity of the skin many times and further leads to a skin cancer. This is the electromagnetic spectrum of light waves, which describes entire range of light that exists, but here we are mainly focusing on the ultraviolet radiation as they are responsible for sunburn and suntan. So what is UV radiation? Mainly there are three different types of UV radiations are there: UVA, UVB and UVC. UVA are a long waves. Their range is around 320 to 400 nanometer. 95% of the total UV radiation reaching the earth may cause the tanning, aging and the skin cancer. UVB, generally called as the middle wave, their range is 290 to 320, and around 5% of UVB radiation of the total UV, they are reaching the earth and they may cause a skin burn and skin cancer. UVC, generally short waves, their range is around 100 to 290 and they does not reach to the earth as it is get blocked by the ozone layer. So UVA radiations, they are weak erythrogenic, they are showing weak erythrogenic activity. They are low energy waves. They are mainly responsible for the tanning. They penetrate deeper into the skin, that is dermis, okay, and mainly responsible for tanning and the photo aging. While UVB, their erythrogenic activity is very high, so they are showing most severe damage to the skin. They are responsible for the burning. It affects the entire synthesis of vitamin D due to the sunburn, okay, and further it may be responsible for the skin cancer as it directly impacts on the cell DNA and the protein. UVC, it does not reach to the earth as it is directly getting absorbed by the ozone layer. So this is the schematic presentation for the UV radiation, UVA, B, C. Their comparison is shown here. Again, the summary of the UV radiation, their range and the effect on the human skin, it is shown in this diagram. We have already discussed. This is again the pictorial diagram. Here you can understand the effect of UVA, UVB and UVC radiation on the surface of the skin. So, as this radiation enters into the skin, they may be further responsible for the suntan or the sunburn, or there are certain long-term hazards are also there and which can be occurred and they can damage the skin also. So the sunburn, suntan responsible for freckling, Then wrinkles, photoaging, some times photoallergic reactions may be seen, photosensitive diseases can be seen on the surface. Maybe they are responsible for the post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, while the other side, the long-term hazards, they may lead to a malignancy, maybe a malignancy of certain cells, squamous cell, epithelium cells, okay, basal cell carcinoma, etc. While also they are responsible for premature aging, which leads to a wrinkle and the lines on the surface of the skin. So what is the concept of sunscreen and suntan? So sunscreen, these are mainly designed to protect us by preventing UV rays from reaching our skin. Suntan mainly gives some protection from the sunburn, tan and the aging from UVB mostly and sometimes from a UVA radiation. Cumulative sun exposure can lead to the skin cancer. Sunburn increase the risk for the development of melanoma further. So to protect our skin from these particular rays in the market, the sunscreens are available in the form of lotion, spray, gel. There are other topical products are also available which will either absorb or reflect the sun ultraviolet radiation and protect us from the harmful radiation. So the role of sunscreen, it mainly protect from premature skin aging, sunburn and skin cancer. This product shows effectiveness mainly by 4 different ways. The first one, a protective layer can be provided to the skin which prevents the UV rays to reach the skin either by absorbing or by reflecting them. Zinc oxide and titanium dioxide, they work this way. Second is to incorporate a substance in a preparation which will filter the sun rays by absorbing the medium range UV rays, but they allows the rays of the higher wavelength to pass. So nowadays the modern suntan preparations are available which consist of this kind of products, this kind of sunscreen agent in the products. So it will protect us by filtering the specific sun rays only. Third one, you can incorporate some biological effective substance which will reduce the symptoms of inflammation. So you can add antihistaminic substances in the formulation, okay, and which will again protect us from the inflammation. And the fourth one, substances that cause or accelerate tanning of the skin can be applied. Example, dioxyacetone and 8-methoxysoralin, which forms a layer, that is brown color complex on the surface of the skin, and so it skin already get tan and then it protects us from the sun rays. So what are the ideal properties of any sunscreen? First, it should absorb electromagnetic radiation in the range of 290 to 320. It should allow full transmission of radiation in the range of 300 to 400. It should be resistant to water and perspiration and should also be non-volatile. It should be suitably soluble in certain solvents which is used in the cosmetic or in a cosmetic base, you can say. They are preferably odorless and it should have a mild odor or acceptable to users. So preferably it should be odorless. It should be non-toxic, non-irritant and non-sensitizing. It should be capable of retaining its sunscreen properties for several hours. It should not stain your skin or your clothes. That is very important. It should not be rapidly absorbed. It should be neutral towards the skin, should not show any kind of effect on the surface of the skin, and it should be soluble in a suitable vehicle. So when you are talking about the classification of sunscreen, there are mainly two classes, physical and chemical. Physical are also called as the inorganic, while the chemical are also called as the organic one. And few of them are also nowadays, there is one more classification that is called as the broad spectrum sunscreen. So broad spectrum generally protect us from both UVA and UVB. So physical one, they generally opaque formulations consist of certain physical ingredients, inorganic ingredients like titanium dioxide, talc, zinc oxide, ferric chloride, etc. And they works by a simple mechanism. It scatters or reflects the UV radiation, and due to large particle size they get scattered mainly, and therefore it will not penetrate inside the skin. So zinc oxide and titanium dioxide, they works by this particular mechanism. Iron oxide, petrolatum, kaolin, calamine, can be also useful in this category. So inorganic agent function by reflecting or scattering the UV radiation simply by forming an opaque film on the surface of the skin, that is a white, it gives a whitening effect to the surface of the skin. And further, if you are reducing this size from micro to nano, that particular film may be invisible. So appearance always matters, right? So traditional inorganic sunscreen appears white on our skin. Many people don't like how this looks, so they don't use this kind of products which consist of inorganic ingredients. And so it is very important to understand that why do they appear white. So traditionally zinc oxide and titanium dioxide forms a cluster, and they are present in a large size more than 200 nanometers. These large clusters can scatter light in many different directions, and the maximum scattering occurs for wavelength twice as large as the cluster, and then it becomes visible. Light eventually goes in one of two directions. Either back scattered light is reflected or front scattered light is generally transmitted. So when reflected, visible light of the light of all color reaches to our eyes, then sunscreen appears white. This is the mechanism why it appears white. So reflected visible light of the colors reaches our eyes and it appears white mainly. So maximum scattering occurs for wavelength twice as large as the cluster. If you are making this cluster smaller, that is you are reducing the size below 100 nanometer, they won't appear or they won't scatter visible light. So nowadays the nano formulations are there in the market. So if you are reducing the size of the zinc oxide and converting it into the nano size zinc oxide particles, then you can say they are invisible. By the large micron size zinc oxide particles, they are visible by forming the white color film on the surface of the skin. Chemical one are the formulations which consist of PABA, PABA esters, that is para-aminobenzoic acid, benzophenones, anthranoates, salicylates, cinnamates, and their mechanism, it absorbs the UV radiation. This is the same, I will not discuss this here. So mainly either these things can filter the UVB, UVA, or they are broad spectrum. So if they are filtering UVB filters or they are acting as a UVB filters, then the PABA derivatives and the cinnamates, they are very commonly preferred along with the salicylates. While if they are able to filter the UVA, then the benzophenones, sulcibenzones, avobenzones, they are useful. Some of them are, as I said, broad spectrum, which will filter both UVA as well as UVB. So I have listed here some of them, that is you can say silatriazole, ecamsol, tinosobs. These are the some products which are there in the market. So how the physical and organic ones differ from each other? So physical one absorb and scatter UV radiation, while the organic one, these are the carbon based molecules, and these absorb the UV radiation and convert them into heat energy. Example for physical, titanium and zinc oxide. For organic, there are many, but PABA derivatives are very widely used. Advantage of chemical, they are well understood by a formulator, they are used in the lower concentration and generally provides a good feel to your skin. While the physical one, they are the broad spectrum, they are photostable, they are generally safe and they are showing low irritancy. No need to use with some other organic sunscreen, and once dispersed they are easy to incorporate into any finished product. Drawbacks, physical, they are most of them are the narrow spectrum, usually need to mix with some other physical or the broad spectrum sunscreen. And the physical one, drawbacks, it can be difficult to formulate if pre-dispersion is not formed. It can leave some kind of film on the surface of the skin, so that it doesn't look good mainly. So these are the examples you can say, which some of them are effective against both UVA and UVB, zinc oxide, benzophenols, and ecamsol, useful for both. So this is the schematic presentation, you can say how that they both act mainly. So to summarize this session, the difference between the chemical and inorganic ingredients. So we have already discussed. In the coming session, mainly we will be focusing on some other concept like the SPF and all these things. So this is the difference between the sunscreen agents. So today we discussed mainly sunscreen agent in the session. So thank you.